Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Shay. I make content about horror movies, horror video games, horror TV shows, and theme parks because I live in Central Florida and I feel like it would be a crime not to. And if you're not new here, welcome back. This is going to be an interesting time. I'm trying something new. Um, I want to do recaps every week of the Last of Us episode that happened the day before, and I'm going to try to get this video out on Monday so that way, I have the content available for you guys to watch if you want to see what I think about it. So this isn't going to be like my usual reviews where like I go like, down the list of pros and cons. I'm going to kind of go over some like major points, not major points, but like some key incidents that happened within the episode, and then kind of walk you through where my head is at with this whole thing. I'm very excited. So this week also, and probably going forward, there's going to be at least 2 uploads a week. I'm hoping so. I have a video game that I was gonna upload last week, but there was some technical issues, so it's gonna be this week. So I'm gonna get that out for you guys as soon as possible. So let's get into today's subject. We're not gonna do any crazy intros or anything like that. I'm not gonna break away. I want this video to be as minimal editing as possible, which I know is probably a bad idea, but we're gonna go with it because I just want to get this out by tonight, or even not even tonight, by today. So let's talk about The Last of Us. Now, if you don't know what The Last of Us is, this is the first time you're ever hearing about it. This is probably not the video you want to start with. You probably want to go find somebody who covered season 1, because I didn't cover season 1, but you probably want to go find someone who covered season 1, or even find somebody who covered the video games, because it's kind of the same. It's kind of similar. Well, The Last of Us is a show that airs on Max, and it stars Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. It is based off of the hit video games from this of the same name that are like pretty much Sony exclusives, and they're made by Neil Druckmann. Um, those games were very huge. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. The first game I knew really, really well because I not only played it multiple times, but I also watched other people play it because I loved that game. The second one, not so much. I didn't even finish it. I didn't even finish the second game, and I don't think anybody that I watched, like YouTubers I watched, finished it either. I have my reasons. We're not going to get into them now because that's spoilers. And if anybody puts it in the comments, if anybody puts it in the, I don't care that the game's been out since 2020. Some people don't play video games, okay? We're going to be respectful of that. Some people don't play video games, and we're not going to spoil and ruin the surprise for them, okay? Don't put it in the comments. So, with that being said, I don't have the best understanding. So this is kind of like fresh to me. I don't have anything. What I'm trying to say is I don't have anything to be angry about, because unlike the first season where I knew the first season so well and I could spot where there were changes and debate whether those changes were good changes or not changes. Full transparency, I loved season 1, but debate whether there were good changes or bad changes. This, I don't have that because I only played the game once, didn't even finish it, and everybody that I watched did not finish it either. So I have no frame of reference. So when you listen to my reviews on this show, it's going to be coming from the standpoint of the show, not the standpoint of somebody who played the game and is comparing it to the show. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to go back and play that game. I refuse to touch it. I know it's a good game, but I refuse to touch it. I can't. So I just wanted to get that out because I think that it's important, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to review season 2 that are familiar with the game. They played the game maybe twice over. Maybe they just replayed the game before season 2 aired. But I think that it's important to also have point of views from people who don't know the game very well. Like I said, first game, completely well versed in, knew a lot of the plot points that we were hitting. Second game, not so much. There's like a couple of things I recognized in this episode, but for the most part, everything was pretty much fresh for me. So let's get into the finer points of this show. Now, I'm not going to go deep into it because, you know, it's not necessary. I'm just going to hit kind of like the important parts. The show does open up where season 1 left off after, spoilers, if you're here, you watched season 1 or you played the game, one of the two. Do not blame me for spoiling season 1. It picks up immediately after Joel saved Ellie from the Fireflies, from basically extracting stuff from her brain to make a cure, and he massacred the entire place, which is still it's still something that I morally I don't like. I think that I don't know. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but it's a double-edged sword for me, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But it literally picks up straight from that where Ellie's asking Joel like, are you telling me the truth about what happened with the Fireflies? And he's like, yeah, yeah, of course. And then it cuts away to like a row of crosses in the ground, and the camera pulls back and you reveal a group of, maybe about 20 somethings, maybe even like older teenagers, all standing around these crosses, and one of them puts a necklace on the cross, and it's the Firefly symbol. This is where we get the reveal that these characters were related to the Fireflies, and that one of the characters, the main female, her father was the surgeon that Joel killed. um so she knows. It's nice little, I think this is nice because I remember in the game they kind of just came out of nowhere. This group came out of nowhere. Like, you're playing as Joel and Ellie for like a good portion, and all of a sudden it just switches to this random group, and you're controlling this random woman, and you're like, who is this? And you don't really know what her motivation is. You don't really know until later when it's finally revealed. I thought this was a better way to handle that, because it already shows you, like, it shows the audience there's something coming. There's something coming for these two, and it's not going to be pretty. So Abby is the name of the character whose father was killed. She basically asks all of the people that are with her, the rest of the group that's with her, if they're gonna follow her because she's going to hunt Joel down and kill him. And she's like, are you guys with me, basically? And they're like, yeah, yeah, we'll go with you. And then she says she wants to kill him slowly. And then it cuts to the credits. So you get the introduction, in my opinion, of the primary antagonist of season two. We're not going to get into it. We're primary antagonist of season two. So we get that, and I liked that introduction for Abby, rather than all of a sudden it just cuts to a random scene of a random girl walking around in the snow. That just would have been like, wait, who is this? So it was nice to kind of get that, like, that frame of reference there. But then it cuts to 5 years later, and now Ellie and Joel are living in the settlement that Joel's brother had, brought them to, or I think they stumbled upon it at the end of season one, and then Joel's brother was and his wife are like kind of like the head townspeople in a way. And they're living in Jackson, Wyoming, and it's kind of gotten to a normalcy sort of state. I mean, obviously, it's not the way that it used to be pre, you know, cordyceps virus or cordyceps mushrooms. It's not the same way, but there's a lot of things that are very similar. It shows you Ellie, she's like keeping a diary, and the kids are playing, and they're bringing people in, they're bringing all these refugees in, but there's definitely like, something brewing. Now, the main crux of this episode is that Ellie, who is 19 now, is really, really pulling away from Joel. Joel's not really her dad, but like obviously they traveled together for a long period of time. She's really kind of pulling away from him. She's trying to figure out who she is and come into her own, but also she is kind of suspicious of Joel. And she wants to just detach herself from him. And Joel's not taking this very well. Joel is struggling a lot to deal with this. And it's really kind of nice to see like the father-daughter struggle. Like, he wants to be there for his daughter. He wants to be there for her, but he's struggling to be there for her because she's kind of putting up a wall. He even admits that she moved out of the house into the garage. They have houses with garages now, so but she moved into the garage, and now he doesn't see her at all, and he sees her around town, and she just kind of looks at him and nods, and she doesn't really talk to him. But Ellie, meanwhile, she's kind of a bit of a loose cannon now. She, after finding out about her immunity, she's just kind of like, I can do whatever I want. I'm not gonna, these things can bite me, they can do whatever, and I'll be fine. It's cool. So she kind of sort of asserts herself into certain situations when Jesse, who is kind of like the youth leader, I'm gonna go with that. I don't know exactly what the term would be, but he's like the youth leader. When he tells them that they're gonna go on a run, she's like, oh yeah, yeah, I want to go. And then he's like, no, like, he's like, okay, I guess, you can go. And then I think she goes out with Tommy to practice shooting, and she tells him, oh, there's going to be a run soon, and he's like, yeah, I'm taking you off runs. And she's like, why? And then he's like, because you can do gate duty. And she's like, I don't want to sit there and just like watch the gate. Like I want to go out there. And she's like, besides, I'm the only one. I don't know why anybody's worried about me because I'm the only one that can't get affected by these things. So, Tommy says, well, it's really because of Joel, and, he's worried about you and he's concerned. And she's just like, whatever, Also, rolling this back real quick, because I also noticed this with the Yellow Jackets video, and I'm just gonna say this like for transparency. Bella Ramsey goes by they them pronouns, but their character is a she her. And so if I'm saying her, I'm talking about Ellie. I don't want anybody to think that I'm like disrespecting Bella Ramsey's pronouns. Like, they are they, she is she. So Ellie goes by she her pronouns, so that's why I'm saying her, just in case. And it's the same thing with Van. Liv Houston goes by they them pronouns, and Van is she her. So I'm just saying that because I don't want people to see that and be like, wait, that's not their pronouns. Like, in the show it is. The character they're playing it is. So anyways, going back to the story. So again, Ellie is just really struggling with her relationship with Joel, and at the same time she's also starting to fall for her best friend Dina. And Dina is sort of like she's sort of like Little Miss Popular. She's really well sought after. Everybody seems to like her a lot. The guys all seem to like her, and she's very close to Ellie. She also really likes Joel, and she kind of tries to bring them together multiple times, but Ellie always just sort of like, whatever. So they go out on a like recon mission, and then they're supposed to just be like going on this recon mission to just check things out and then come back and report it. But of course, Ellie and Dina just go off on their own and leave the leader behind. They're like, whatever, we don't care. They get to a like abandoned store, and they hear a clicker. They hear a clicker, and so they're like, oh yeah, let's go kill this. Like they get excited about that. So they go in, there's a clicker by itself, kind of like doing this thing, clicking around, and then Ellie stabs the clicker a bunch of times, and then the clicker dies. And her and Dina are like, oh yeah, this is so great. Okay, I guess we can go back. And as they're walking back, Ellie falls through the floor into another part of the building. And she falls down, and honestly, when she fell, I was like, how did she not break her back? She plummeted down, landed smack on her back. I'm like, that's a herniated disc at least. But then she got up, and, Dina's freaking out. She's like, oh my God, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I don't see a way out of here, though. And Dina's like, let me look on my side. And she's like, you're alone, right? And then Ellie looks around. She's like, yeah, I'm alone. So Dina leaves, and Dina tells her to stay where she is. But Ellie can't do that. Ellie can't listen to anybody but Ellie. Ellie's like, I'm only listening to me. So she starts to wander around the store. And as she's wandering around the store, we hear like a weird gasping and groaning sound. And you're like, okay, there's definitely something in here. And you're thinking it's going to be like a clicker or a runner or something like that. And then we see this woman on the floor crawling. And Ellie doesn't see her yet. But we see her, we see from, her point of view, we see her, crawling on the floor, and then it goes back to Ellie, and then at one point, Ellie walks around, a row of shelves, and she stares at this empty space, and you're expecting, a jump scare to happen, but she stares at this empty space because she heard a noise, and she's just staring, and she's just like, okay, there's nothing there. And she turns around, and from behind her, you see this woman crawling out, and then she makes a noise, and Ellie turns around, and Ellie's like, okay, run at me. And the woman just lays there and looks at her, and she's like, run at me, you'll get up and run. And she's just laying there looking at her, but it's clear that she's infected, but she's not behaving like the infected that they've encountered. So then Ellie goes to shoot her, and she runs and hides. And so Ellie was like, okay, she goes to try to find her, and then she turns around, and the woman crawls out from underneath a table. And then you get a reveal of her face. She's like half of her face looks like it's been scratched off. She's got the mushroom moss coming out of the top of her forehead, and she's definitely very you can tell she's she's intelligent. She's a predator. So Ellie goes to fire at her, and then she disappears. And Ellie's looking around, and all of a sudden she comes from behind her, and it starts attacking her. She does get a bite on Ellie, which is no big deal because Ellie's immune. So she gets a bite on Ellie. And, Ellie ends up killing her, but now she's shaken up because she realizes they might be evolving into something much more dangerous. These, the runners, the clickers, the things we've dealt with, the bloaters, all that stuff, they're not they're just like a hive mind almost. They just kind of go where they got to go. But this, no, this is strategic, this is planning, this is like something that knows what's happening. So, yeah, terrifying terrifying in theory. So, after that, Dina and Ellie get brought in front of the council, and the council kind of just tells them that, hey, the council kind of tells them, like, hey, what are you talking about? Like, what went on out there? And Ellie's like, this specific infected was smart. She knew when to run away from. She wouldn't run at me. She actually ran away from me. She knew how to hide and keep herself covered. It's like she knew how to, like, what to do to attack me. She's like, she wasn't talking or articulate, but yeah, she was smart enough to understand how to maneuver a serious situation. So the council's like, okay, whatever, and they ask Dina, and Dina's like, yeah, yeah, she didn't see anything. But she's like, yeah, yeah, I saw what Ellie saw. So then they dismiss them, and Tommy asks his wife, he's like, what do you think? And she's like, Dina didn't see anything, but I believe Ellie. And then they're like, something's coming, like something's going on with these things. So there's that. Meanwhile, and this is kind of, I'm interlocking these. I'm kind of bouncing around, but meanwhile, Joel is, like I said, he's struggling with the idea of him and Ellie growing apart. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he lost his daughter and he's never going to get that opportunity with his own daughter. So now he's got this pseudo daughter that he's been taking care of, who was, a child when he found her. And now he's just struggling. He's just struggling a little bit mentally with the whole thing. There is a character who is introduced in the show named Gail, who's played by Catherine O'Hara. I only have to mention that because I love Catherine O'Hara. um, she is a therapist, but she is kind of a fed up therapist. And Joel's been meeting with her to work through his feelings. But in this particular session that they go to, she's been drinking. She's been drinking whiskey, and they sit down and he says that, he's like, she keeps pulling away from me. He's talking about Ellie, and she's like, okay, no, dude, cut the BS. Like, we talk about this every single time. Like, you need to tell me what you're hiding. And Joel's like, what do you mean, what am I hiding? And then she's like, I'll tell you, what I'm hiding. And she proceeds to tell him that, you killed my husband Eugene. And she's like, and I hate you for it. I hate that I have to sit here with you. You're in our home and I have to sit here with you, and I have to, I have to talk to you, and all that stuff. And she's just admitting, she's like, I hate, basically, I hate you, Joel, I hate you. And then she says, but I'm willing to work past this if you're willing to be honest with me. And he's like, he starts crying a little bit. He has a tear roll down his cheek, and then she goes, "Did you do something to her?" And he shakes his head, and she goes, "Well, then what happened?" And he says, "I saved her." But that's not. He's harboring guilt because it's it's a lie. It's a lie. His whole entire relationship has been based on this lie that Ellie was not immune, but she is immune, or they couldn't use her blood, whatever the case might be. They couldn't use that to fight this thing. So yeah, he basically just realized that, he basically just knows that what he did was wrong, but in his mind it was right because he saved the one thing that he was fighting for the entire time that he was out there. So there's that. That's really like the main issue with Joel, and he keeps trying to reach out to Ellie. He keeps trying to, bond with her, but she's just like not having it. She's done with him. He does take her guitar and he's going to restring it and, tune it up and bring it back to her, but it's all good. So then the town is having a New Year's Eve party because, you might as well, like, let's turn up. And they all get together in the town hall, and it's like this big dance. They've got a live band playing because, I mean, they probably don't have like boom boxes or anything. I say boom boxes. They probably don't have like Bluetooth stereos and stuff like that. But they had a live band playing. Everybody's dancing around. Everybody's having a good time. Dina is clearly very, very like, she's on something basically. She's dancing with all the guys. She's having a good time. Then at one point she runs over to Ellie and she brings Ellie out to slow dance with her. And Ellie's like, "Are you drunk?" And she's like, "No, I'm high, you know." Like, she's like, "I'm high actually." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So they start, slow dancing, and then Dina brings her in closer, so like her head is on Ellie's shoulder, and Ellie like remarks that everyone's staring at them. And she's like, "Well, maybe they're looking at, like she said, they're like every guy's staring at you." And then she says like, "Maybe they're looking at you because they're jealous of you." And then Ellie's like, "Well, I'm not a threat to them, I don't know why, because again, Ellie likes Dina, and I don't know if I mentioned that, but Ellie likes Dina." Well, after she says that, Dean is kind of like, "Oh my god, like you don't get it." Okay. So then Dina proceeds to kiss her, and they kiss. It's not inappropriate, it's not like they're like full on making out like they would be in an adult film. But then, of course, while they're kissing, some guy named Seth, he steps up and he's like, "Hey, this is a family event. You're in a church." And like, so then Dina's like, "Well, so like, what's the big issue?" And then he's just like, "Well, it's inappropriate." So then Dina goes, "Okay, come on, Ellie." So then she drags Ellie away, and then Seth calls them a slur. I'm not gonna say it, but he calls them a slur. And so then Ellie turns around, she's pissed, she's like storming towards him, but before she can get to him to, get in his face, Joel comes out of nowhere and just shoves this dude on the ground. And you would think like that would be the moment where like Ellie would be like, "Oh wow, he's still on my side." No, Ellie is pissed. She's like, "What is wrong with you? Why would you do that?" And so like she tells him, she's like, "I don't need your help. Like I don't need you." And she storms off. And their story ends up with her walking back home from the dance, seeing Joel on the porch playing the guitar, and just looking at him, not really like saying anything or doing anything, and then turning and walking to her bedroom. And then it goes back to Joel, and you can see how sad he is. He just really wants that connection with her again. And it is heartbreaking a little bit to see for various reasons that we're not going to get into. But the episode ends with the implication of two threats. Now, the first threat is that earlier in the episode, as it looked like they were trying to go through like find like water, or I think that's what it was. It was like, it looked like a water main. And as they were cracking it open, all they were finding was like roots and dirt and stuff like that. So, you know, not really good for water, not really a good indication. Well, at the end of the episode, we see that same drainage pipe, and it zooms in on the opening, and we see these tendrils like starting to kind of creep out from inside of them, which means that there's something already that's in their colony that's probably going to start infecting people. Whether it's going to be within the water supply, whether it's going to be within the food or anything, or whether it's just going to be airborne and it's going to, get them, or they touch it and it's going to get them infected. Who knows? Who knows? So, yeah, that's the first threat. There's definitely something brewing in that town. Something is growing, and it's not going to be pretty. The second threat is that we then see Abby and her crew. I don't know any of their names. I don't really care to know any of their names right now, but Abby and her crew are hiking across the snowy mountains, and still on their like pursuit of vengeance. And as they're walking, they stop on one of the mountains and they look across the mountain. They see the lights from their town, from Jackson, and it's the implication that, yeah, they're coming. They're coming. We do see them another point in the episode when they're inside of their little like house hideout and like chilling, and they're talking, and it's definitely like that, like they're having that moment where it's like, "You still want to do this?" And it's like, "Yeah, I still, I'm full out." But that moment was really cool because you see them and they're just looking over there, and you're like, "Oh, here we go." Like two threats in one. You got to deal with the biological threat, as in the plants, and then also the threat of Abby and the other, I'm assuming, children of the Fireflies. So that is pretty much episode 1 of season 2 of The Last of Us. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying this episode is slow, and yeah, it kind of is, but I think that it's okay for it to be slow. Like, from the previews I've seen, this season is going to be intense. It's going to probably kick up way quicker than we we're ready for. So my whole thought process is it's okay that this episode was slow because it's kind of easing us into the chaos. I don't understand the complaint sometimes when people say like, oh, the first episode of the show was slow, because I feel like when you have the first episode of any show, even the first episode of a season, even if it's an established show, you kind of have to ease people into the story you're telling this season. You can't just like start it off with like everybody's running away from infected and like there's like all the threats are already happening and then it's like, all right, how did we get here, you know? I mean, unless you want to do like that and then do like a flashback and like, okay, the rest of the season's going to take you. I think The Walking Dead did that. Maybe, I don't know, I think they did that in one of their seasons. Like it started, the season started out with this big horde of zombies coming towards them and then it cut and it was like weeks earlier and then we got all the way up to that point when there was that horde coming towards them. So I'm not entirely sure if they did that or not, or if I'm just misremembering. I haven't really watched The Walking Dead in a while, but I don't really see this one as like, oh, it was so slow, it was so boring. It wasn't boring, it was very interesting. And for me, knowing what's coming, it was very anxiety inducing. There's no other word I can say about that. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, both of their performances are still great. I don't care what anybody says. I love Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I know a lot of people had a really bad reaction when they were cast as Ellie. I don't see why, because I think that they're like at that age where they fit Ellie the best. Even in the first season, like they were a believable 14-year-old. They were a very believable like 14-year-old. And in the second season, like they're a very believable 19-year-old. I don't know how old they are. I don't know if they're like in their early 20s, but they have a very young baby face. So it works for this role. It definitely works for this role. And Pedro Pascal, it's funny because he was actually the one I was worried about. I know everybody loves Pedro. I do love him, but for me, I always pictured Joel as like a super rugged big dude. So when they announced Pedro Pascal, I was like, he's a great actor, but I don't know if he can pull off Joel. After the first season, I was like, after the first episode of the first season, I was like, yeah, no, okay, he kind of knocked it out of the park. Never doubt Pedro Pascal, I guess. Never doubt him because he will prove you wrong. I mean, I don't have any. I love Pedro Pascal, but it was one of those things that in my head, the way I was picturing Joel, it didn't line up with Pedro Pascal. So I was like, oh, that doesn't make. I don't know if that's gonna work, but it worked, and he's great. And even in this, he's great. And I think what makes him even greater for me is that he definitely, when he plays Joel, he definitely feels like Joel. Like there's sometimes where you watch like stuff with Pedro Pascal in it, and it's like he's a great actor, but he has like this swagger to him. And that's why he gets cast in a lot of the roles that he does. But it's kind of like The Mandalorian. I know that he just does voice work for it now, really, but it's kind of like The Mandalorian, where it's like he kind of removes himself from that, that like that that persona that he has in real life. Other things I've seen him in that like that is what he's like known for, is kind of like the suave smooth. But this show, it's like, yeah, he really feels like a dad who's trying his best to hold on to his daughter in really uncertain times, especially as a man who already lost a child. So it really like rang true. And even this, especially the scene with Gail, with the therapist, when he starts tearing up, and like he has a tear go down his cheek and he's just like can't speak to her, he can't really say what it is that he did. It's really well done, it's really beautifully done. So everybody in the show, I think, carries their weight. They do really good. The girl that plays Dina was Dora the Explorer in the Dora movie, so I never saw that movie, but like if you've seen it, like that might be something cool bit of trivia for you. But yeah, so I'm not going to do a skull rating for every single episode. I'm going to do a skull rating for the season as a whole, because I think that it deserves to be observed as a whole season. But my final thoughts on this is that I really, really did like this first episode. Yes, it was slow. Yes, it was a little bit like, pacing wise, it wasn't really slow, but it wasn't as action packed. There wasn't as much going on as, you would want from a show about the apocalypse. But it was very heart wrenching, and it set the scene for a lot of really difficult moments that are coming later on in the season. Maybe, I don't even know, because I've heard that they're going to split the season up into two, like the second game up into two seasons. I don't know if we are going to. I mean, I'm assuming we're going to get to the really bad stuff this season. I'm assuming, but you know, they do change things about the show from the game, stuff that doesn't translate well into the game, into the show from the game. Like they do change that stuff, so who knows, we'll see. But all I know is that I know what's coming, and I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready. I had a hard time playing through it. I just it's gonna be rough. But in any case, I want to know what your thoughts are. Did you watch the first episode of The Last of Us yesterday, or whenever you're watching this? Have you seen any of them? Are you happy with this episode, or do you think this episode was boring and terrible? Let me know what you think. Really, down in the comments, like, let me know what you think, because I'm interested in what people's perspectives are about everything. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up because it is 9:39 in the morning and I have to get started for my day, my regular day, my work day. So yeah, I am going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, press subscribe, leave a comment down below. Any engagement lets me know that you liked what you just saw. You follow me on all my socials. I'm on Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. I really don't use social media all that much. I don't know what to tell you, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't really use social media all that much, but I am there. I might post about some of this stuff over there soon. I do have a website. I gotta get back on it. I will probably do that this week because I'm gonna write about the speculation map of HHN that came out recently, and kind of what everybody's thinking. So yeah, go check that out. The link will be in the description, and that's all I have, to say. There will be another video this week. It will be a gaming video. Hopefully you guys enjoy that video, because I want to do more of those. I've been having a lot of fun doing them, especially playing some games I've never played before, and playing through these games is such a different experience than watching somebody else play through the game. So I'm having a lot of fun with this. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all next time with another creepy critique.